Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Spirit of Creating. And today I wanted to talk about the concept of ghosting and how it's not just for the dating world. It happens to artists and creatives who are sharing their work all of the time. And it can be under the umbrella of rejections from your submissions, ghosting, feelings of failure, any of those terms. But the concept of it really kind of came about because I was thinking of how vulnerable it is when we create our art piece, whatever it might be, and we share it. And, we might have spent months working on our portfolios, we might have spent months working on this collection. And then we send out these submissions to agents or companies or galleries, whoever it might be, and we hear nothing back. We might post on social media and there's no response. We might send it out to our email list and there's no response. And there's a real feeling of deflation, of course, and this idea that something's gone wrong, like the work's not quite right, something I'm doing isn't quite right, maybe I'm not right. And it can lead into this kind of spiraling down and feeling quite like, oh, is this something I should even be doing? This isn't panning out well. This isn't working. And I just kind of wanted to talk about this because if you're a creative on a journey and intending to stay in the game for the long haul, this is really common. And I just want you to know it's really common and that you can expect it. And it's so common that you can have like a process to deal with it, as opposed to just being knocked back by it and then not wanting to continue anymore because you're so upset by it. And I remember when it first happened to me, when I first began my business, just thinking, oh, that might just be that the work's just not the right style or it's not good enough, so I'll start again. And I didn't used to really process the whole cycle because there's a grieving process in it too. You've spent your heart and soul creating this body of work. You've submitted it and shared it, which is a real vulnerable act. And then you've heard nothing back. Or you might have had, we'll take a look and let you know in a couple of weeks, email back, and no one gets back to you. And it's upsetting. And so I don't want to pretend it isn't, because it really is, because it's some form of rejection. But I do want you to be equipped to deal with it. And so with all my years of experience of being ghosted or having rejection letters or submissions that didn't get acknowledged, I always go through this process now, and I didn't always. I would suppress or repress the feelings I had about the experience. So I would kind of pretend it didn't matter. I would just think, well, get on with it, go and create some more work. Something was wrong, obviously, with what you made, so go again. But quite harsh and not very kind, and definitely didn't acknowledge that I might have been upset by the whole thing. Whereas I'm more aligned with now allowing for the sheer disappointment of it, the sheer upset of it, the sheer letdown, and allowing those emotions to pass through and supporting myself through them with some grace and kindness. And just being like, that's not fair. I spent so long doing it. I don't know what's wrong. It's not fair. All of that. If you call it a tantrum, call it dwelling, call it what you like, have that time to feel the feelings, all of them. And don't try to bypass them. Don't try to repress them. Just let them be. And then as soon as you process them, you can get a bit objective and step back and look at it logically. And all it is you took part in doing something. It didn't work out like you intended or expected it to or wanted it to. But you're a creative. So you're in the ideal arena of becoming creative and looking for a solution. So you might take a look and think, did I really submit to the right people? Like, does my work align with the style they have? Was my email heading correct? Did it really encourage the viewer to open the email? Or were the JPEGs of the images I sent attached to the email just too large, so they didn't want to open them up because it took up so much space on their computer? All these things are just very logical and they're very impersonal. They're not about you. They're not about what you've done wrong. They're not about your work being wrong. They're just logistical, objective solutions. And then you can amend and tweak and go forward again. So you have your grieving process, then you get objective, then you realign and shift and think, right, I'm going to go again. I'm going to do it this way this time, because it's just an experiment. You're just finding out what works and what doesn't work. And if you weren't feeling invested in it, you wouldn't care. And if you weren't taking it personally, you would be very objective and logical about it. You would think, right, what could I tweak to make that maybe work for me a bit better? And I think going through that cycle is really helpful, because the rejections or ghosting isn't really ever going to stop. That's part of the deal. That's part of the process. It's part of the game you're in. And I can't tell you how many rejections I've had over the course of my creative career. And to this day, still happens regularly. And it'll be emails, and I'll have meetings, and stories boards are put forward, and things are really going like in the right direction, and then I will just hear nothing back, absolutely nothing, tumbleweed. And then I might email and say, oh, what happened there? And they'll just be like, we went with someone else, we didn't even let you know, we just went with someone else. And it's upsetting. You're excited, you think you've got a new client, you're getting ready to work on their project, they've given you the guidelines, so you've started experimenting, you might have even gone that far, and then you get ghosted. And so I don't want anyone to feel so disheartened that they stop, because this happens no matter how many years you've been in the game. It keeps happening, and it'll keep happening. I don't expect every project or every submission I send to be accepted, not by a long shot. And you know what it is? The joke of it is that I've learned more from the failures or the rejections or the ghosting than I have from the yeses and the acceptance. Because if I get a deal that says, yes, let's go ahead, then I will just do the creative process for that objective, whatever it is. But when it doesn't work out, it makes me really think about what I'm doing, who I'm working with. Do I want to work with them? Does it align with what I want to produce? Do I enjoy the work I'm creating? Do I want to make more of it? It makes you assess and reassess and reflect in a way you don't when you just have yes and success after success. So in a way, it's like a stopping point that makes you think. And then once you've gone through the process of feeling the grief of it all, of the loss, of the disappointment, then you can reassess again. And you always come out better in the end. The work comes out better, the process is improved. You might find a different way of approaching it, and it will all be a benefit to you. So next time you get a ghosted submission or a rejection, go through the cycle, experience it all, but know you're going to come out the other end good to go again. And that it's not unusual. It doesn't just happen to the unlucky few. Doesn't mean just because you're new to the game, this is why it's happening. This is just something that occurs, like rain falls from the sky and the sun also shines. It all just happens. Let it all happen, and find a way of accepting it and processing it in a way that's kind and beneficial to you, so you can stay in the game. If you have any questions about this, or you want to talk about anything further, you can email me on illustratingrain@gmail.com, and I'll be back again next week.